Hello, and welcome back to a little interesting game I want to play here with you. The combined 11 of the AC Milan mid-2000s team under Carlo Ancelotti and the Barcelona Pep Guardiola team. As someone who has recently just turned 27 years of age, these two teams are probably the greatest teams I've seen in my lifetime. In my childhood, in my more formative years as a football fan, Italian football was at its peak. AC Milan under Ancelotti was the most consistently dominating team. I remember I support Manchester United, I think in 2007. We beat AC Milan 3-2 at Old Trafford. Conceding 2 away goals seems like murder in a Champions League tie. I remember thinking this was one of the greatest results we'd achieved in that time, because to beat that AC Milan team was just... it just didn't happen. They were just so good. Barcelona under Pep Guardiola is probably the greatest team I'll ever see in my lifetime. The brand of football it played was revolutionary. The way it operated was genius, and I can't speak highly enough about it. So I thought, what would happen if we were to try and combine the two? Now, by the way, I'm sort of picking two specific teams with this. The Barcelona team is the one that started the Champions League final in 2011 against Manchester United, where they won 3-1. I felt like that was at the point where this Barca team peaked. I think that team, these players in there were just at their highest powers, I think, and under the management of Pep Guardiola. So that means there is a few omissions. Carlos Puyol is a legendary centre-back, but I just don't think within this team and in this period under Pep Guardiola he was at the level that we would normally associate Carlos Puyol with. So I don't necessarily think he gets a shout in this. And AC Milan I'm kind of cheating with, because they did win the Champions League twice in the 2000s. In 2003 they beat Juventus at Old Trafford on penalties, I believe, and beat Liverpool in a Champions League final rematch in 2007. I'm going with the 2005 team, which was of course the Istanbul final, where Liverpool came back after 3-0 down to make it 3-3 in normal and extra time, and then win on penalties, because I think this team was better than the other two. Obviously the Liverpool game was just a freak result that just doesn't happen, especially to a team this good. But this was the team I felt like where it was really at its peak. It should have won that final, realistically. As much as Liverpool produced a great comeback, this team should never have been beaten. And it's just one of those games of football in it that you just can't explain. So I'm going with that team, just because I think if you look at this team, I mean, there's a world-class player in every position. There really is. I mean, you can say that for the Barcelona team as well. So why not? Let's get into it. You know, we'll start with the goalkeepers. You know what, actually, give me a quick second. I'm going to sort this out. Okay, so I've quickly moved all the players over to the one side. So I'm going to build my team from the left, as you can see. We'll start with, the responsible place, the goalkeeping position. We've got Victor Valdez and we've got Dida. This is actually pretty underwhelming, because they're both, I wouldn't describe them as top class goalkeepers. I think people may disagree with that, but Dida just never convinced me really as this top level world class keeper. He was huge, he was bloody massive, but I just felt like that was all he was really. I didn't view him as a, you think of the top class keepers around that time, you're thinking of Oliver Kahn, you're thinking of Buffon, you're thinking of Casillas, and I just don't think he belongs in that category. And I think Victor Valdez the same. Doesn't strike me as someone you would describe as a world-class goalkeeper. And I saw him up close when he played for United, and it was quite underwhelming. And this is a player that got relegated with Middlesbrough and got dropped for Brad Guzan. Need I say more? If I was to pick the one out of the two, though, and I don't know what just happened there, but if we move that back, I think I'll go Dida. Just because I think they're two keepers that have errors in them. I just think with Dida's size, can just cover as much of the goal as possible. And I think if I was to pick one that would make the less errors, it would be Dida. But then also Dida played with a better defence. We are sort of seeing two contrasting styles with this. We're seeing the defensive solidity of Milan and the just tactical and passing and just entertaining nature of the Pep Guardiola Barcelona team. Defence, see this. Okay, so we're going to go right back first. It's Cafu versus Dani Alves, two Brazilians. Any other comparison between right backs, I'd probably go Dani Alves. You gotta go Cafu though, don't you? Just the engine, just complete engine up and down that right flank. Dani Alves is maybe slightly better in the attacking sense, but I just think as an all-round player, Cafu was much better. And I rate Dani Alves highly. I think when people say that Trent Alexander-Arnold has redefined the right-back role, I think they just seem to forget that Dani Alves exists. Just because he was that before Trent Alexander-Arnold and was defensively better, in my opinion. Left back, Eric Abidal, Paolo Maldini. Look, full respect to Abidal. I think he came back from I think he had an operation to remove a tumour or something, like a couple months before the Wembley final. So that's massively inspirational and a very consistent, steady player for Barcelona. I just don't think you could describe him as world class. And Maldini is one of the greatest defenders of all time. Enough said. Don't think he could have necessarily played a left wing back in a diamond shape midfield in today's standards. I think with the athleticism required from wing backs, I think he just doesn't have that level of athleticism. But I think in this role, when teams played a diamond, it was usually more zones on a pitch as opposed to complete athleticism. I think we see how good he was for AC Milan. I think he even scored a goal in the Champions League final, if I remember rightly. And Maldini, he's just one of the greatest defenders of all time. Just one of the greatest defenders of all time. The centre-backs, so we've got Gerard Piqué, Jaap Stam, Alessandro Nesta and Javier Mascherano. I'm going to clear Mascherano out of this. I think Mascherano stays here. Did brilliantly for Barcelona being moved from a holding midfielder into a centre-back, but he's, for me, again, just never reached the levels that Nesta, Piqué or Stam did. I'm going to go Piqué and Nesta just because I think Jaap Stam... look, I love Jaap Stam. I'm a Manchester United supporter. Jaap Stam is one of the greatest centre-backs I've ever seen. And in my all-time United 11s, I put Jaap Stam in there. I just don't necessarily think we're looking at the AC Milan and Barcelona sides. He's as good, or better, or even as good as Gerard Piqué or Alessandro Nesta. I think they're two excellent centre-backs. They've been consistently world-class in their positions for 10 plus years and don't necessarily think they get the credit they deserve, whether it's because Nesta's constantly compared to Maldini or overshadowed by Maldini, I don't know, and Gerard Piqué, I just don't think he's always been given the credit. I think when you think of Spanish centre-backs, Ramos is the one that gets the attention. I just think Piqué gets a little bit overlooked. I mean, this is a defence, isn't it? This is a defence. No team in the world would find their way past this. I know it's the AC Milan defence bar Piqué, but it's unreal, isn't it? Just look at the star quality in that. Here's where it gets a bit tricky. Here is where it gets a little bit tricky is the midfield. Jesus Christ, just look at that. Just look at the absolute quality I've got to pick from. Like Busquets, Pirlo, Xavi, Iniesta, Seedorf, Gattuso, Kaká. I'm gonna go diamond. I haven't rehearsed this, by the way. This is just very off the cuff because I felt like that would make the best video. I'm going to go diamond purely for the sake of A, Messi played as a false nine in this Barcelona team, and B, I've got so many quality midfielders I have to get them in, and the wide players at Barcelona, David Villa and Pedro did wonders. Wonders is maybe a bit strong. They were very good for Barcelona under Pep. I'm just not sure if you look at this central quality, they were as good as any of these players. So I'm going to make the decision right now. I'm going to go diamond. Holding midfielder, it's between Sergio Busquets and Andre Pirlo. I think this would be a better comparison if this was Pirlo later in his career. I still think Pirlo was a little bit raw at this period. I don't think he'd blossomed into the player that would later become. I think Pirlo was always a player that got appreciated as he got older anyway. And I think Busquets at this point blossomed into what I think we now know as the best holding midfielder in the world. I do personally class Sergio Busquets is probably the best holding midfielder I've seen in my lifetime. His reading of the game is second to none. His passing ability, just his intelligence is I just can't phrase it in any other way. I know he gets criticised because of the play acting and the Oscar-worthy demonstrations on the pitch that should be held in the finest of cinemas. But I don't think that should also take away from just how brilliant a player he is. I will hold him up there as the best holding midfielder I've seen in my lifetime. So that's Busquets at the base of that midfield. That makes this defence somehow look even better, and I didn't think that was possible. So we're looking at Xavi versus Gattuso. Got to be Xavi. Gattuso, I think, was brilliant. Looked absolutely terrifying to play against. Just a rough bastard, I think it's fair to say. Xavi is one of the best technical players of all time. It's a position and a role within a team that I absolutely adore. It's sort of a lost role in today's game, but I think Xavi is just world class. I thought he was, bar Messi, probably the most important player to this Barcelona team that was so successful. Now, Iniesta versus... wow. My gut instinct there was to go Iniesta, but then I think about it more. I don't think I'm giving Seedorf enough credit. I don't think he gets enough credit. This is a player that's won 4 Champions League, 3 of those with different clubs. Turned up in those finals, by the way. He scored an absolutely ridiculous goal for Real Madrid. Do you know what? If I'm playing a diamond, I'm just getting so tactical about this now. I'm trying to justify this because I'm about to leave Iniesta out and I don't feel good about it. If I was to play a diamond... See, my thinking is, if I'm going to play a diamond, I want an all-round midfielder. And Clarence Seedorf is that, where Andre Iniesta isn't. I think Andre Iniesta, at what he does in his position as a sort of number 8, left-sided number 8, which they both are, to be fair, Seedorf favoured the left, is better in the more offensive components than Seedorf. But I think Seedorf's all-round game is what helps him in this regard. I think Iniesta is better. I mean, Seedorf is still brilliant in his attack and play. His range of passing was excellent, technically very gifted. I just think what Iniesta lacks in the defensive side of the game, Seedorf covers for brilliantly. I think he's an expert box-to-box midfielder, and I think he would complement playing Busquets and Xavi and the player I'm going to play in my number 10 a lot more than any... I mean, Seedorf made the name Clarence cool. He made the name Clarence cool. Iniesta didn't do shit for Andre. Don't even give me anything on Andre. Andre was already pretty exotic. It was foreign. You know, it had a hint of the Mediterranean in it, which a lot of people find attractive. So I'm not having it. It's got to be Seedorf. It's got to be... I feel so ugly leaving Iniesta out. I feel ugly. This feels wrong. I just feel like I'm lying to myself here. I'm cheating. Because so far I've been doing player for player, right? I think that's been the fair way to do it. I'm absolutely cheating. Kaka's going to go in as my number 10. I think at this point was the best number 10 in the world. And by this point I mean when AC Milan were at their peak in the mid-2000s. I think he was the best number 10 in the world. Technically gifted. Everything you'd want for a player in this position. I think he has to be in... I can't put together a team and leave Kaka out. I think he even won a Ballon d'Or around this time. Especially when Zidane retired, I think Kaka took on the mantle of being that sort of star number 10. Earned his move to Real Madrid where he wasn't as good as he was at AC, but I don't think that should overshadow how good he was for AC Milan. I think just the slickness of his passing was to die for. Messi comes in here on the right-hand side of the strike partnership, and then Andrei Shevchenko joins the attack up here with him. So Messi kind of, you could say he's playing a similar role to Kaká, but I think we've seen that Messi is pretty quality on that right-hand side, and as well as Messi, you give him a free role. Andrei Shevchenko, I think that time at Chelsea sort of overshadows how good he was for AC Milan. He was absolutely unplayable at AC. Sometimes certain players just fit certain clubs in certain leagues, but the fact he's won Champions League, you can't tell me he's just a player that can only do it in a certain league. You know, he's got 2 Champions Leagues. Actually no, he may have joined Chelsea by the time they won the second, but he's got a Champions League under his belt, and I just think at this period was definitely within the top 3 strikers in the world. And you have to remember, R9 was playing at this time. Henry was at the peak of his powers, but Shevchenko, you could comfortably say, was top 3. Messi, I mean, need I say more? Need I say more about Lionel Messi? Now I'm just going to sort of go over this. Is there anything I could change? Not really. I mean, okay, first we'll just quickly go over the team that I haven't picked. It's still pretty good, isn't it? I mean, let's be real with ourselves. This is unbelievable, actually. Yep, Stam and Mascherano at centre-back. Dani Alves at right-back. A midfield 3 of Gattuso, Pirlo, and I mean, that's unplayable. And that's my backup centre midfield. That's unplayable. David Villa and Pedro on the wings. Great off-the-ball movement. Great crossing, passing, and finishing ability. And Hernan Crespo, again, quite underrated in terms of being a number 9. Maybe doesn't get the credit he deserves. Up against the team I've picked: Dida, Nesta, Piqué, Cafu, Maldini, Busquets, Seedorf, Xavi, Kaká, There's literally a world-class player, maybe bar goalkeeper, in every position in that. That would be unbelievable. So what's the breakdown? We've gone, wow, 4 Barcelona players and, 7 AC Milan players. That's actually a little bit shocking to me. I thought there'd be more Barcelona players, especially in the attacking areas. This is also why I think I would put Pep Guardiola as... If I was to compare Pep Guardiola and Carlo Ancelotti, I'd go Pep Guardiola just because I think sometimes you have to compare what those managers have got and how much they're getting out of them. And the fact that individually I wouldn't exactly say that Barcelona's defenders were anywhere close to the level of AC Milan's. They were still defensively excellent, and I think that's down to the coaching. Not to say that Ancelotti isn't a great coach, because of course he is. But I just think to get this level of quality out with that team, I think is more impressive. You know, considering all the facets, because I think this AC Milan team is just set up to be defensively shithousey and attackingly brilliant. I mean, you think of the defensive solidity, but you've got Pirlo, who's one of the best playmakers of his generation, Kaká, who's one of the best number 10s of his generation, Shevchenko, one of the best number 9s, Seedorf. God, I mean, the talent is unreal. So Messi, Xavi, Busquets and PK I didn't mean to do that, get into this team. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Am I going to get absolutely slandered in the comments for leaving Iniesta out? Possibly. But I think this can inspire some pretty good debate. I'm looking forward to hearing your points of view. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching. This may become a regular thing, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.